This initial lecture, before I get into the progressive era, is titled Problematizing Charity as Societal Approach to Taking Care of the Poor and Needy People. Okay? So in many societies, people rely on charity. So what is charity? Problematizing charity here simply means, well, charity is good, but are there certain things about it that are wrong or are a matter of concern that we need to problematize? Many religious traditions require charity as part of the religious obligation and moral and ethical conduct that they have to manifest. I've already mentioned that in all religions. Now, maybe you may disagree with one or two things or whatever, but that's up to you. But the point is just that one of the things that religion does, apart from the whole question of preparing us to deal with life after death and things like that, is to regulate our crude human instinctual desires. All human beings have crude instinctual desires. Religion or religious teachings are some of the things that help to sublimate or help us to cultivate or control these excessive human desires, so that I don't see myself as always in the position to dominate another person, but rather to partner with that person, to cooperate with that person, so that we can create an inclusive society where all of us really benefit, okay? So just understand that charity is part of the teaching of all religions. The second point I want to make is that some people, however, assert that charity is personal and fickle in nature. Okay? So being fickle in nature means it is based on feelings, it is based on affection and interest, and it also changes. Okay? So in other words, if you are trying to take care of the poor based on charity, and I happen to be the rich person who is supposed to, or the person who can donate money or whatever, well, if my interests change, my feelings change, you're no more going to receive any donation from me. You don't have any guarantee because it is charity. Okay? So while charity is good, but if we have the poor in society and these poor people need to be taken care of, but we don't have any kind of like a systematic approach to dealing with the issue, we're just relying on charity. The problem with charity is that it is fickle, it can change, and it can change based on personal feelings, our feeling of affection. Maybe at one point, I love this kind of people, or I have sympathy for this kind of people, but now my sympathy has changed, or something like that, okay? So you can't rely on charity alone to take care of the question of people who are needy, especially people who are poor or socially marginalized. And then the other second issue is charity assumes the dependence of the weak and poor on the will and disposition of the rich and powerful. This has implication for democracy, okay? So generally when we talk about charity, there's an implicit assumption there that the weak are supposed to depend on the goodwill of the rich and powerful, okay? In some countries, sometimes amazingly, even when like somebody like a governor or a president use public money to do something to help the poor or something like that, some of the presidents or some of the governors make it look like it is their own money, not knowing that it is public money. They just use their power to use that public money to solve a particular problem, but it's not like it is on their own personal money, okay? So if we are building a society based on charity, and charity means the weak are always supposed to be dependent on the rich and powerful, then this is not going to lead us to have a true democracy, because I cannot exercise my true democratic right if I'm dependent on you. Because sometimes to practice true democracy means you have to make your decision based on your values or something like that, even if they go contrary to the opinions of somebody who is supposedly the benefactor or the person who is giving out money, donating money, not the benefactor, but the person who is donating money to other people so that they can use it. So that idea of dependency is something that we have to be careful about. And by the way, in social theory, there's a theory called social exchange theory. Social exchange theory argues that when people exchange things, but the exchange is the giver is always one person and the receiver is always the other person, then there's going to be a structure of power dynamics that develops. What does that mean? What that simply means is that if I am here, but every day I am at the receiving end, I have to receive some donation from somebody or help from somebody, but I am not able to give to somebody, or I'm not able to give something back to the person giving me, then there's going to be a power relationship that develops out of that. Sometimes it happens even in marriage, in some marriages. If somebody is the only breadwinner in the family or something like that, there can be some kind of power dynamics that develop in the family compared to a situation where all of them are earning the same thing or something like that, okay? It can happen in terms of relationship between parents and children. When children reach a point where they don't materially depend on their parents, whatever, they will have to have good reasons to respect and relate to their parents because now they are not relying on receiving something. So just understand that according to social exchange theory by Peter and Blau, I think if the exchange between two people is one-sided, then there's going to be a power relationship that is going to develop. And remember, this is one reason why in America, because we emphasize democracy, in America generally, people don't want to be at the receiving end, like always they're the people receiving. So if I buy you a free lunch, chances are that sometime when we go out, you will say, okay, today it is my turn, I will pay the bill or something like that, because we want to feel like we're equal. Okay, the fourth thing about charity is that charity is subject to the vagaries of short-term funding, which may be politically determined, no guaranteed sustainability. Assuming we rely on, I have mentioned this much earlier, but let me emphasize it. We rely on solving the problem of poverty based on charity. But charity depends on funding. And that funding, maybe the person giving you the money is getting the money through business or something like that, and the market didn't go well or something like that. So say, okay, this year I cannot donate anything or something like that. But well, what's going to happen to the poor? What's going to happen to the socially marginalized? But compared to a situation where you have a systematic approach, institutionalized approach, and you're committed to helping the poor, you would have to have a way to generate that money from your limited budget because it's something really very important to you. So all this is not to say that charity is not good or that we should stop. As I said, charity is part of the teaching of many religions. But the point we're trying to draw the attention of anybody who's listening here is just that there are some problems with charity if that is the only way you have to deal with the question of poverty or addressing the challenges of people who are needy. And then point number 5, charity is not about complementing. Rather, it attempts to substitute for concerted social, economic, and political commitment and social action for common social welfare by society. So generally, charity is not concerned about justice. Some people will say that charity is trying to, in some cases, is trying to make suffering sufferable. Making suffering sufferable is that you're going to help people cope with their pain, but you are not really doing something to totally change the situation. Okay? So in other words, there are some people, especially social workers, who are concerned that, and in the readings, you're going to see many of the reformers in the United States are concerned not just about making suffering sufferable, but they're thinking about what are the social and economic structural changes that need to be made either in the economy or in the society, politically or socially, so that we can have a more fair and just society for all. Okay? So the civil rights movement was by and large about something like that. And at one point, the labor unions, I know labor unions are now considered not to be popular, but if you study very, very carefully, you're going to find out that there are many things that many Americans take for granted in their places of work, and without the contribution of labor unions in the past history of the United States, these things could not have been realized. Okay, and then finally, personal morality agendas can be secretly infused into the charity program and process while it remains unexposed to public scrutiny, debate, and examination. So what that simply means is that when the person is giving charity, they can decide to impose their personal morality on the people who are receiving that charity. Okay? Now, if that is the only way we have to solve the problem of poverty or address the challenges that people who are socially marginalized have, then the problem we have here is the people who are donating money or who are engaged in these charitable activities are actually people who can decide to just impose their moral agenda on other people. And there are examples I can give you in Africa, for instance, and this is even happening at the international level where, for instance, the United States was donating money, but because of the influence of certain groups in the United States, they forced the president of the United States to make sure that anybody in Africa who is going to benefit from this money or something like that will have to change their behavior or something like that. Okay, I think in Brazil it was something that had to do with HIV/AIDS or something like that. They were literally dictating the lifestyle. They were telling the Brazilians that if the Brazilian government is going to receive this money, they would have to impose this kind of moral behavior on the recipients of the aid or something like that. And Brazil said that doctors treat patients in Brazil, but they cannot dictate to them a moral whatever. Just like in the United States, our doctors can treat us, but if you are somebody who smoke, your doctor will encourage you not to do that, but your doctor cannot engage in telling you that you don't have the right to smoke. It's up to you to choose. The doctor will tell you, of course, it has some medical consequences on your health or something like that, okay? So anyway, what I've done is just to summarize to you the need for us to problematize charity. Charity is good, but you can see that there are some problems with it.